Hello, good morning. Thank you for coming. My name is Lisa Holtby. I'm a home organizer here in Seattle, and the Real Estate Gals invited me to present to you this morning. Um, I want to start by saying that I'm really proud to work with the Real Estate Gals because our business models are so similar. We are similarly committed to long-term relationships with our clients. We genuinely want to serve you, and we genuinely want you to feel comfortable in your homes. So I'm really pleased to be here. And when Tanya called me and asked me to do this presentation in May, this was way back before COVID and before the stay-at-home order for sure. So we had envisioned this workshop as hands-on and in person. So if I was in person with you right now, I would want to know your name. I'd want to make sure you knew where the coffee and danishes were. And I'd want to know if you had any questions for me about organizing, because I want to answer those. So since we're doing this virtually, I hope that you'll add your questions into the comments section so that I can answer them for you. So the structure this morning is that I made a 30-minute video because I really wanted to show you before and after pictures from my clients' homes so you could see theory into practice. So we'll watch that video together, and then I'll have time to answer all your questions. So please do comment as we go. I'll be watching with you, and I'll see you in about a half an hour.
Hi, my name is Lisa Holtby. I'm a professional home organizer here in Seattle, and today I'm going to talk you through 5 kinds of clutter and what to do with it. So as an organizer, I like to say that my superpower is my ability to create beautiful, individualized, highly functional spaces for my clients. And so during the stay-at-home order, it's been really satisfying to get emails and texts and photos from my current clients who are saying that their homes are a really comfortable place in which to shelter in place, that they've fallen back in love with their homes. So job satisfaction for me. But on the flip side, oh my gosh, I so miss being out on site with clients. I get it, clutter happens. I've been in business now for just under 3 years. And in that time, I've worked in 149 homes before the stay-at-home order, and for 1,875 billable hours. So I speak from experience. I feel your pain. I know how stressful it can be and exhausting and dispiriting when you feel like your house is too cluttered or claustrophobic, or you can't find things, or it just isn't working for you. So until I can get out there and help you in person, I'm hoping this series of how-to videos and then this talk on clutter clearing today will give you a set of tools so it's a little more manageable for you to do some decluttering and organizing on your own. Okay, so let's start with a definition of clutter. This is from organizer Barbara Hemphill. Succinctly, she says, clutter is postponed decisions. Clutter is postponed decisions. I love that. Dana K. White is a great writer. I recommend her books. I define clutter as anything I can't keep under control. If a space in my house consistently gets out of control, then I have too much stuff in that space. So notice that she doesn't say, I didn't buy the proper organizing tool so I can fit more and more of my belongings more effectively into a small space. Nope, she says, I have too much stuff in my space. Very key. I think of it as both in your home and in your life, your physical environment and your digital life and your calendar and your to-do list and relationships, all of it. In order to really say yes to what is most important and essential to you and who's most important and essential to you, you also have to say sometimes no, thank you kindly, to that which is inessential. And that is what I feel is my job as an organizer, is helping my clients discern what's most important to them, and then being able to let the rest go. So what might be getting in your way of decluttering and organizing? One of my favorite writers, Gretchen Rubin, I love her books, love her podcast, says something that can happen at any time often happens at no time. So I think this applies to decluttering and organizing, as it's never going to be on the top of your list as your top priority of the most important thing you do that day. And yet, I encourage you to schedule it in and do it because the results are so satisfying. Another thing that stands in people's way for most of my clients is just time and energy. And I want to acknowledge, if you are home right now with children and you're responsible for their schooling and their care 24/7, plus you have your own job, you are busy, and bless you. So yes, it takes time. Yes, it takes energy. And the results are super quick and satisfying. So I encourage you to make the time and devote the energy. Really, though, for my clients, it's just a feeling of overwhelm and not knowing where to start. So instead of the process feeling like, easy peasy lemon squeezy, it feels difficult, lemon difficult. So I'm going to show you some before and after slides of clients' homes to give you some inspiration, and I'm going to talk you through reasons why you might want to declutter and organize on your own and feel really good about it. So I encourage you to notice your gut reaction to think about living in cluttered spaces, the before photos you're seeing, versus the after, the uncluttered spaces. When you see the cluttered spaces, do you notice if your body tightens up slightly? Or do you feel like the very subtle sense of anxiety or overwhelm? And conversely, when you see the after uncluttered spaces, does your body feel ever so slightly more relaxed? Or just, again, this is super subtle, but a little more cheerful or relieved? So when we live in our own homes for a long time, we stop seeing things individually, but it still has an emotional and energetic impact on us. So when you see the after photos, can you imagine that those clients who live there, that they probably felt a greater sense of possibility, of spaciousness, or creativity as a result of those physical changes that we created together? And can you see how when there's wide open spaces, even in some of these are very small apartments and homes, it's not because they stored things more efficiently necessarily, it's because they stripped back to what they discerned was essential. Yeah, so what you don't see in the before and after photos is how many bags of stuff we schlep out for donation and recycling, and how many massive pieces of furniture my clients give away. So here are some reasons why you might want to declutter and organize. One, the biggest one is I want you to enjoy your life right now. I want you to use up all your things, enjoy your stuff that you've worked so hard to earn, and then to be generous. That is part of enjoying your life right now. You can really make a difference in people's lives by giving away the stuff that you no longer need or use. It's a joy to be open-handed and open-hearted. Another reason is you're taking care of your family, not just to create a beautiful space for them right now, but like advanced mothering. I think of things that I do for my son in advance of taking care of my responsibilities now. Similarly, being in integrity with my values. I want to walk my talk. We try and teach our kids, pick up after yourself. If you're a hiker, you know the saying, pack it in, pack it out. So everything in my house I allowed in at some point, and now I'm responsible for it. And finally, to tell your story. You can tell your story however you like, and I really encourage you to keep things around you that that make you feel good, and pictures of people who love you and cherish you for who you are now, and all the rest, just let it go. So we've talked about the definitions of cluttering and giving you some reasons of what might be standing in your way, and then inspiration to move past those barriers. So now here's the functional part here, is identifying 5 different kinds of clutter and then what to do with it. So the reasons I'm giving you this framework is when we live in our houses for a while, we kind of stop seeing our surroundings. It's just like, well, this is where I live. This is how I live. But you can tell from the before and after pictures that there's an emotional and physical sense of when your home is cluttered and claustrophobic versus open and beautiful. So when you can identify the different kinds of clutter, it's kind of like wearing different lenses, different color lenses, to look around and see, oh, there's something that I haven't, engaged with in 10 years that I didn't notice was there, and I can let it go. So aspirational clutter, this is the kind of thing that you feel you should do, but you have not done. So for instance, in my clients' homes, it often shows up as unworn clothing that is just doesn't fit or is not appropriate for where that client is right now in his or her life. It shows up as cookbooks that clients have never used, or very specialized equipment, sports equipment, art equipment, or supplies, specialized things that the client thought they were going to use, but they haven't. So an example from my life is that when my son was born, I thought it would be lovely to learn to quilt. And so I bought a used sewing machine and some fabrics and like that. So fast forward, my son is about to leave for college. Have I quilted? No, I have not. I would like to be the kind of person who quilts, but in reality, that is just not how I enjoy spending my time. And so I, about a year ago, gave away my sewing machine to someone who can really use it. And I have not missed it. I just have more open space. There was a moment when I thought, during the pandemic, I thought, oh, I wish I had my sewing machine so I could still, so I could sew some masks. But the thing is like, I don't even know if I would sew masks. It stresses me out to sew at all. It's just as easy for me to buy it off of Etsy, or share fabric with a friend and do it together, or something like that. So there's options to having all the things, to owning all the things oneself. Outdated clutter. These are things that you used in the past that are like support or express an earlier iteration of yourself, but that are outgrown. So examples from my clients' homes. Toys and baby clothes for families who've already decided they're not having more children. Interview suits that date back 10 or more years that are more formal than what a client mid-career would wear now. Similarly, college textbooks. Again, I feel if you're mid-career, you've either integrated that knowledge or you're not going to, but in any case, you probably don't need to save the textbooks. So in our own family, outdated clutter is, so before our son was born, my husband and I would go on long bike trips, overnight to romantic locations and like that. And then when Ben was in grade school, we would bike him to school. Fast forward, years go by. This was about a year ago. I walked out to my to the bike shed, and I noticed that birds had built a nest in my pannier. So that is a really good indication when wildlife nests in your equipment that you are not using that equipment. So my husband tore down the old bike shed, and we donated our bikes to Columbia Bike Works, which is a nonprofit, just so good. So it felt good, and we haven't missed the bikes. If we want to go biking as a family, we can borrow bikes, we can rent bikes. If down the line we want to start biking going on trips again, we may reinvest in new or used bikes. But in the meantime, all that living in the meantime, we just have open space and less to take care of. Duplicate clutter. So yes, it is good to have duplicates on hand. It is good to have backups of things. But the balance is, the discernment is it so much that it is crowding out your life now? Is your duplicate clutter so much that you cannot find what you're looking for because there's so much stuff everywhere? Is the duplicate clutter impacting your financial well-being, that you just have so much stuff that is costing a lot? So there's no right or wrong answer. It's just what's best for you and your family. Usually with duplicates, I lay them out for clients to see, and then just to choose their favorite and maybe a backup, or just their favorite and let the rest go. So duplicate clutter for me, I realized a couple years ago, we have a very tiny little storage space down in our basement, and I realized there was stuff down there that I had been saving that as backups that I just hadn't used for years, and so I let it go. It kind of comes with just-in-case clutter. Just-in-case clutter, boy, I bet this is up for people with the pandemic, is how to discern what you might need someday. I might need this. Someone might need this. I have to save this, just in case. I get that. And again, it's the balance of, does all that just-in-case stuff, have you used it in the last month, year, 10 years, 20 years? And if not, maybe let it go. Again, you may not need to hang on to all the things. It may be possible to borrow it, or ask for free on Nextdoor or Facebook. Does anybody have something like this? So you don't necessarily need to save all the things. My grandparents and great-grandparents came through the Great Depression, and I really like the phrase from that time is, use it up, wear it out, make it do or do without. And it's tricky in this era of inexpensive consumer goods, when things come Amazon Prime or Costco or Walmart. It's really easy to acquire so much stuff that you cannot use it up all. You cannot eat all the food, you cannot wear all the clothes, you cannot use up all the stuff fast enough, and so the stuff itself becomes oppressive. If you can't find things, if you're overwhelmed visually, if in your home you have to make your body small in order to get around furniture or stuff or plants, if you have to make yourself small in response to your stuff, your home is not supporting you. That's not you living your full life. That is just your home as a storage space for things. So again, discernment process. And then the last category of clutter I want to talk about is keepsake clutter. And this is the one where there's a lot of emotion attached. So I want to lead with, when you're thinking about gifts, when you're thinking about family heirlooms or things of your kids, if you let some of that go, you are not throwing away the relationship. You are not throwing away the memories. Those stay with you. You're just letting go of some physical objects. So what I see in my clients' homes that really makes me sad is when clients have hauled around boxes of memorabilia without opening them. They've taken them from house to house, and it occurs as a burden. There's these unopened, unprocessed things, and that does not honor your history. It doesn't honor your family members. It's just kind of a stuck energy. So I would encourage going through memorabilia and saving the things that are most emotionally resonant for you, and then letting go of the rest. And I think you'd enjoy them more. So that's kind of theoretical. Let me give you an example from my own house. Okay, this was my great-grandmother's, and we use this in our kitchen every day. And I really think of her and what she taught me about how to run a gracious home. She had a beautiful little house in Ballard that was so pretty, and a beautiful garden, and she was a great cook. And so I didn't save any of her fancy things, but I did save something. This is really humble, but it's I use it every day, and I feel like I honor her memory every day. With my kids' stuff, so this is a cigar box that I decoupaged. This was my son when he was going through this little elfin stage, and we were deep into Harry Potter, and I read the whole series out loud to him twice over. So here's a little time turner that he built. We had a magical birthday party. This says, admit one for a magical adventure. These are some rocks from beach trips that we made. So this, and I have this on my shelf in my office, and so I see it every day, and it really brings back very sweet memories of when our son was just this small little guy and the kind of magical childhood that we had together. Oh, and then the lion, the significance of this is how I feel like mother, which is fiercely. So some fierce mothering and some sweet memories with my boy. So now we come to our very last step, which is letting go of the things that you decluttered. Options are give away, donate, sell, recycle, shred, compost, and landfill. So giving things away to be generous to friends, to neighbors, to your kids, nieces and nephews, godchildren, like that. The caveat I would say is anything that you're saving for people, for adult children, is you might text them first and say, do you want this? Because a lot of times when I'm working with clients, the kids don't want more stuff, and they're not even interested in like the family heirloom things. So, check it out with them first before you send them a bunch of stuff. Donate, a couple of my favorites. I love the Refugee Women's Alliance. That is where I volunteer for donating housewares, especially kitchenware, clothes, shoes, toys, things like that. Another favorite is Humble Design. They're a nonprofit around the country, but they have one office here in Seattle, and they have a big warehouse of donated housewares and furniture, and this is so cool. This is before the pandemic stay-at-home order. Is they sponsor one family a week who is emerging from homelessness, and they completely furnish and decorate that family's new apartment or home. It's amazing. It is life-changing. So I really recommend donating furniture and housewares and things like that to Humble Design. Also, Habitat for Humanity is fantastic. Goodwill is great. There's a lot of specialty places to donate things, like art supplies to Recreative, your books, CDs, DVDs to the Seattle Public Library. The Friends of the Library have a couple of big sales every year, and all the proceeds go to support our libraries. So there's lots of great places to donate the things you're not using, to give them away, and really make a difference in people's lives. You can also resell things, so Etsy, but remember you have to pay shipping costs. Craigslist, I've had great look on Craigslist, no problems at all. And Nextdoor, you can list things for sale as well. The tricky thing about reselling stuff, first of all, a lot of the time we think that our belongings have a lot more value than they actually do. And it takes some time to research what's an appropriate price, then photograph the item, then list and do some interesting copy for the item, post that online, and then field interested people back and forth, emails, and then finally setting up a time to meet. It's involved. So for my families who that's not going to make a huge difference in their total financial picture, I really encourage them to just be open-handed, open-hearted, and give things away. But if you need to resell things, then those are some good options, those in consignment stores as well. Recycling. There are great recycling programs around the Seattle area for styrofoam. Styro in Kent. I take clients' styrofoam by the carload there. Latex paint recycling programs for, let's see, expired medications and sharps. The cities or the county's household hazardous waste recycling. Super programs. And I want to put a pitch in for Seattle startup company Ridwell. They come and pick up from your front porch every 2 weeks. They come and pick up hard to recycle items. And so the categories are batteries, light bulbs, threads, so like old clothing or clean rags, things like that, sheets, towels, and what is the fourth category? Batteries, bulbs, threads, and something I'm forgetting. And then they also do rotating pickup of categories like this week they did a food drive for local food banks. So I really recommend Ridwell, despite my memory. Shredding things, if you have a lot of shredding that you don't want to do at home, and I think it's handy to have a little, $25 shredder, paper shredder from Amazon in your house. But if you have a lot of backlog, you can take it to UPS stores and they will charge you by the pound to put it in their shred box. And this is run by Iron Mountain, reputable company. So you feed the, your pounds of recycling or shred papers into a box, and then they come and shred it on site. So that's a good way to go. Compost for sure, if you can. Any food that you're throwing away, please compost it and then recycle the containers. And then finally, our last option is landfill. And of course, no one wants to put more things in landfill. I certainly don't. And none of my clients do either. And yet, I'm going to argue for throwing things away if you cannot responsibly give them away, donate them, recycle them. Because those things exist in the world. Their presence does not go away if they're in your house versus in a landfill. So if your only option is to throw it away, I really encourage you to throw it away. And that's because I want my clients, I want you to live a full, happy life in surroundings that support you. If you are feeling oppressed by your surroundings, stressed out, I don't think you're going to have as much spaciousness in your life to do good work, to be of service in the world. So our homes, I think, really need to be our refuges where we take strength and we take comfort so that we can go out and be effective in the world and do good things. So as much as it pains me, there are some things that I would say, yep, throw it in the landfill. So, oh my gosh, we made it to the end. Thank you so much for watching this far. I wanted to say, if you want a PDF of links to some of these resources that I mentioned about how to give things away or how to sell things, shoot me an email, lisajoholtby@gmail.com, and I'll send you the PDF. So thank you for your time.
Hello, welcome back. Thanks for watching this far. So I have a couple questions that I'm going to address, and if you have, write in the comment section if you have any questions for me that I can answer for you. So I thought this was really interesting. Someone wrote, how do I keep up with the organizing after the initial clearing? What are some ideas to change old routines? So first of all, I really encourage you to admire your work. That's really important, is to, when you've finished a space, is to, every time you walk by, is to really admire it. And for some people who forget where things are, it is helpful every time you pass that space to keep the doors open or the drawer open and actually touch the physical things that are inside, and even say the name, like this is where the forks are, this is where the spoons are. For some people's brains, that works better. I really suggest going one little space at a time, rather than trying to organize your whole house and then maintain your whole house. It's sort of like building a muscle. So if you do one little drawer and then admire your work, and every time you walk by, pat yourself on the back or just look at how delightful it is, that one drawer, then that's your homework for the day or maybe the next couple days, is just to maintain that one drawer. Another thing I notice is that sometimes clients are find it so overwhelming to tidy something up that their perception of time is that it just takes hours. So I'm actually using a little time timer right now to keep track of time. You might have seen this if you have kids like in their preschool classrooms. It's a great thing, but it's a visual representation of time. So I have my clients set a timer for like something that feels manageable, like 5 minutes, and they can see the time that it goes by, that it's not, forever to tidy up a space. Give this, 5-minute tidy up, and then that's it. Admire your work and move on with your life. So those are some suggestions for setting up routines to maintain your new and beautiful space. Another question: how can you get the family involved to keep it up? Yeah. My favorite story about this is I did a whole family's house. They had 2 small children, and kids like to have the moral high ground. So I set up a chart for the kids to maintain, that to put on the refrigerator was a checklist of so that they would judge their parents' work on doing the chores. And if the parents passed muster, they would get a gold star. And at the end of the week, the whole family would go for an ice cream cone. And the kids would always get an ice cream cone, but they were the arbiters of, did their parents earn an ice cream cone for doing their tidying up chores? So involving your kids, creating accountability for yourself. Kids are a great way. That's a good way to involve children. Also, I really like the idea of some areas in the house are just neutral, like Switzerland, is like as a family, you don't leave your stuff out. In our house, it's the living room and the dining room. We just always leave those tidy for each other. It's kind of like, pack it in, pack it out. So that the idea is you leave it neutral for the next person. However, that only works if we all have our own personal spaces that we can leave as messy as we want. So my son's room, I never go into. I just shut the door so I don't have to look at it. It's his business, but he has to keep our neutral spaces tidy. So otherwise, if you want all the spaces to be exactly clean, then all you're doing is nagging, and everybody will burn out. Yeah, and then the other thing about so another question is, what do you suggest for younger kids to start with good organizing habits? I've had a couple clients want to hire me to just work with their kids, of their kids tidying up. But the problem is, it's, kids, you got to walk the talk. Kids only do what we actually do rather than what we say. So it's got to be the parents starting first with keeping their own spaces tidy, because that will inspire children. And to do that, I would say normalize tidying. So when my son was small, I would really clearly say, we'll leave to go to the park as soon as we've finished tidying up, as soon as we've left our neutral spaces clean. Or we'll play this game as soon as we've done the dishes together. So we don't move on to the next activity until that space that we've used, that everything's put away. So in that way, we've really normalized it. Excuse me. And then when Ben was tiny, I really involved him in doing, cooking, gardening, home repair, organizing, house cleaning, all of it. That is just normal at our house for both parents to do. And so he just did it along with me to his little teeny way. So when he was a tiny little guy, I had a little play iron. So when I was ironing, he was ironing his little fake iron, little handkerchiefs or something. And it takes a longer time for sure. If you had, for Ben, when I was vacuuming, he'd like to throw balls at the vacuum and like run away from the vacuum. So it takes forever to get it done, but it normalizes that is just part of family life. That is part of sharing a house together, is that everybody pitches in, and that's just what you do as part of your day. It's not something extra. It's integrated into your family life. So hope that helps. Okay. Last question. How do you suggest I deal with sentimental items that I don't use, but I can't bear to throw away? Oh, I get that. Oh my gosh, I am so sentimental. I have been hauling around stuff since like 1969 and from house to house. I love my old stuff. And if there's so much of it, it does become a burden. Here's what the thing I worry about when I see clients' houses is if their sentimental things are in cardboard boxes, because cardboard boxes are subject to water damage, insects, rodents, all that, and it's just heartbreaking when that stuff is destroyed. So watertight plastic boxes for sure. You might think of, if it feels like too much, you might think of keeping one or two of a set rather than the whole thing. And I will show you. So for instance, when I lived in England in 1972, I got really into Enid Blyton as an author, and I had for years, like through my 40s, I hauled around I think I had like 20 books of hers, and my son didn't. I read them aloud, but he wasn't really into it. Mr. Pink Whistle's Party. Ooh, this is the best one. The Enchanted Wood. So what I ended up doing was I donated most of those books, but as you can see, I kept a few of my favorites, and just those few are evocative of a whole time for me. When I actually looked at those individual books, those other 20 that I let go of, they weren't as emotionally resonant for me. So I just kept a few of the things that were most important. So that's one way to go. Another way to go is, I had showed in the video of a little box of my son's, and this is another way, like if you have old letters and cards like that. This is my grandma, and she and I wrote back and forth a lot when I was little. Here, I hope you can see this. This is her wedding picture. She's so dishy. And then I picked out some of the letters that she and I wrote back and forth to each other that were really evocative of a time, but not every single letter. So sometimes curating or distilling your collections makes it even more evocative. Like when you strip away just even a little bit, all of a sudden your memories are even stronger. So the things I kept are photos. This is my grandma and I when she was in her 90s, my sweet grandma. She was a beautiful seamstress. So I saved this. This is from 1980. I saved this that she made for me. And this is all in a little cigar box. So I'm pro sentimentality. Just protect it from the elements, and then maybe engage with it to distill it down to the most shiny, wonderful memories for you. So I think that is all. Thank you so much for tuning in. Shoot me an email if you want a PDF of the resources that I mentioned in the video, the recycling and donation places here in Seattle. And I really appreciate your time. Thanks for coming.